209 Clover Street at the last village board meeting, and my question is for the village board members and candidates. The last meeting, a referendum was mentioned for fire and EMT service, but also Trustee Wright mentioned ways to cut back. And I'm wondering, is that decision made by committee, or does each individual trustee member have a decision on that? I mean, I like the fact that you did have ways to cut back from, I think you said 3 different places at least, but how will that happen, and how can we avoid a referendum? And also, I'd like to comment.
Your time is expired.
Okay, thanks.
So you can finish your questions.
I will take first cut at this. It's a finance issue. And I was the one who made that presentation. But the finance committee will make recommendations to the village board, but in the end, it's a board decision. We're going to have to make a decision pretty quickly in terms of what our plan is going to be. The earliest we could have a referendum, if we were to have one, would be in November, which requires a decision by June. So we're going to have to make a decision pretty quickly if we're going to go down the referendum path. If not, then the what might we cut decisions will come in the fall when we have to do next year's budget. And that'll be a board decision. Committee recommendation and a board decision.
The committee chair takes the initiative. They work with staff, the village administrator, on a certain subject, and then when it gets to a point where they got whatever they want, they go to the committee members, discuss it with them, and then they vote on it, and then recommendations get made to either finance and eventually to the village board. So it goes through lots of discussions, all those things, before it finally gets decided. And if we get legal input, there's all these things happening. So none of these things are taken lightly, and in particular referendums.
So that discussion with the board meeting was in its infancy.
Yeah.
It's strictly just starting a discussion. I think it will be at quite a few board meetings, so I would encourage people to come and voice their opinion on it. You know, one of the things it has been mentioned about phone numbers. All of our phone numbers are posted on the website. All of them are posted on business cards that are here at the village hall when you come to pay a bill. I get very few phone calls on my phone. I get a few emails, but feel free, you should reach out, you should voice your opinion, even if it is just a statement. Every one of those is read. I will tell you though, and I've mentioned this in some other meetings, that if you do put a 2 to all 6 or 7 members of the board, I tend to not respond because it could be an open meeting violation. So I prefer, if you're gonna do that, blind copy everybody else, put my name on it, and I'll respond to you. But this is only in the infancy, and I don't know how much time.
You're good.
Okay.
Go on.
So when it comes to this discussion at the finance level, when we do budgets, every single board member participates in that budget process. You sit down with the people that fall within your committee. So as a good example, Ryan is sitting in the back. Ryan and I will sit down and go through a budget first to figure out what's going on. Then I look at the piers, the slip leases, the beach revenue, the expenses associated with maintaining all of that. And if we can find areas to either cut or we can find areas to delay, we put those in place if it doesn't, affect something that is tantamount to getting done immediately. And believe me, just like in business, you have to make a decision on what are the high priorities and what are the lower priorities and what can be pushed off. And we do that, I think, fairly well on a regular basis.
So yes, your question really, your question was about referendums and how could we avoid one. And I will say that I'm a big proponent of referendums. I think that we should be coming to you. If we need more money, you should be making that decision. If the fire department needs more money, we go to a referendum. If the police need more money, we go to a referendum. If the school needs more money, we go to a referendum. I'm also a big believer that if you're gonna make a major change in the whole character and master plan process, we should go to a referendum. We should always go to you on those major issues. I do hear, I spent many years I think I've been on the finance committee almost every time I've been on the board. And I hear this, that we can only get $18,000. Really what he's saying is that the village board members are saying they're unhappy they can't tax you more than $18,000. That's what they're saying. Or they have to go to a referendum, which I think we should be going to a referendum. So I like it. If they can find ways to not go to a referendum with the fire department, better yet. I mean, I think that should be their job. Their job should be how not to go to a referendum. It should always be the last resort. But it should be all of us that are making that decision. So I'm a big referendum proponent.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim Foster from 181 Conference Point Road. My question's for the trustees. Thank you all for serving, by the way. When it comes to tax revenue, it's important. So I'm curious on everyone's thoughts about the business district downtown. There's three, at least, vacant properties without tenants. Is there any way to, and I realize they're private properties, is there any way to incentivize the owners of those properties to sell or make improvements? And also what role does the WBBA play a part in those improvements?
You asking that to me or?
To everybody.
Well, I guess since you mentioned it, I'll start. One of the things is, you're right, it's privately owned property. The one thing the business association we've done is we've weaved a lot of really good relationships with the businesses. So we've brought them together. Many a times I had all the owners sit together and try to figure out what we can and can't do. You know, COVID did hit 4 or 5 years ago. One of the things that I was working on at the time was actually sitting them down and reversing it, not having them come to us and say, hey, look at this, what do you think? Have us go to them and say, this is what we want to start the process, and maybe it can be modified and maybe it can be changed, but we really need to be proactive. And we really need to have a downtown master plan. I know Trustee Bartholomew is working on it. She picked up the ball from me. But that's really how we should, I mean, the old way of them walking in the door and saying, hey, what do you think of this? It just isn't working. And I think that's what they've always been saying to me the last several years. What does the village want? What do they want? They're like, they don't tell us what they really want. They say, come in with your scheme and your proposal. And it doesn't go anywhere. So that's what I'd like to see.
Anybody else?
Yeah, no problem.
Comment?
Yeah, no problem. I really don't have any feedback to you on the WBBA and how they work. They seldom come to a board meeting. I've been on the board for a number of years. I've never seen the WBBA here to tell us what's going on. There is an effort that was started back in 2024 by the Streets and Highway Department. And actually, if you were at the board meeting just recently, I think we extended the agreement with Vanderwall and Associates. It was started, a contract was given to Vanderwall and Associates in 2024 to develop a downtown master plan. And for some reason it died back in September of 2024. And it has only now just recently been reactivated. And I think that's where the village can play an important role in figuring out what to do with the downtown. As Jim said, I would agree with him. It's private businesses, it's private property. We really can't dictate what gets done with it. But I think with the development of a downtown master plan and then a better working relationship between the board and the WBDA, I think things can take place and move forward.
I would only add to that one thing, a downtown master plan in terms of buildings and streetscape and sidewalks and decorations is one thing. An economic development plan that says what kind of business can survive a winter in Williams Bay is the real question. We need somebody to help us answer that question and then go try and find those kinds of businesses. And as far as incentives, I don't know that we have much incentive to offer other than a great summer. And if you got a business proposition that can survive the winter, more power to you, I think. But I think we can make the downtown business area more attractive. But we need to find the kind of find out what kind of businesses can really survive in a village like Williams Bay and provide the kind of character that we want to see here.
I like to see things in a positive way. Where the kite room was, that grassy area was there for 20 years straight, nothing happened, except downtown was going downhill. Now we got the green grocer. I think there will be more development because that's a start. Hopefully, naturally, new development will come, new stores will be filled. And so I'm hopeful that will happen. Those are private properties and we do not have a whole lot of control about that. But I think it's a natural thing for here things to go upwards, and we will fill those stores hopefully and soon, and things will be better than what it was for the last 20 years.
I'm Kathy Swift, 541 Free Church Drive. I'm a retired educator of 35 years, so my question has to do with the school because now I'm interested as a resident. I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm amazed at the time being a trustee takes, and I wish you all good luck in the election. What are your thoughts on the development of the old Williams Bay School property? I'd like you to address, this is for all of you, the additional property tax that will come from the 10 new homes, and to address the improvements to the water and sewer paid by the developer via the TID, and also to direct the question to about the alignment for the master plan. Thank you.
Yeah, in anticipation of that question, I did look at the master plan again this afternoon, although I was on the plan commission when we wrote the current master plan. And with respect to that property, the plan commission and the board endorsed that decision at that point in time, left the old school property as institutional in terms of future land use, and its current zoning is still public and institutional. So if somebody wants to develop something different on that property than something that falls within the public and institutional decision or description, they're gonna have to ask permission. They have to file an application to do that. It's gonna have to go to the plan commission, and it's gonna have to go to the village board as well. But the master plan had an interesting discussion about something it called planned neighborhoods that envisioned a way to build new kinds of communities, new kinds of neighborhoods in the village. And one of the properties that discussed that was in fact the old school property, even though it left the zoning institutional. But that's one of the, I suppose all that's to say, we're a long ways from any kind of decisions. We don't even have an application from the current property owner to do anything with it, other than tear down what's there. So there's a lot of steps to go yet, but the comprehensive plan does talk about the property, but left its planned land use, future land use as institutional.
The first question was about the real estate. Williams Bay we are valued at $1.3 billion worth of real estate. So if we had $15 to $20 million to that, it's not going to really upfront, in the beginning at least, not move the needle at all for us as far as that is concerned. What will make a difference is if we can set up a tax increment district, because all the water lines around that property are 95 years old. They're also 4-inch and 6-inch water mains. That cannot happen unless all that gets replaced. So either we pay the $3 million or it gets paid back by the developer technically to a tax increment district, which I would prefer that happen so it doesn't fall on us. Besides that, it's the developer has a plan, as Lowell just said. We are quite a ways from getting all of this approved.
Well, I think the other two trustees have kind of hit on the taxes, the financial aspect of them, the sewer and the water. I think social media has more information than we actually have had as a board member. And I would not say that social media is usually accurate. But nothing, one of the things that I think as residents we think the board controls all this stuff. If you wanna tear a building down, you go to the building department, you pull a building permit, and you tear it down. It doesn't hit the board level to make a decision on whether asbestos is gonna get removed out of it, or you're gonna remodel your house, or you're gonna get a building permit for something to, it only comes to the board through the planning commission when a variance is asked for, okay? So as of right now, nothing has come to the board level. We haven't seen a thing I have not seen a thing from the developer. I do not know, I've heard the rumor of 10 homes on it. I think the process has to be open hearing meetings if we're gonna do a land use map change. We wanna have input as to what people want to see happen over there, and we need to explain what the developer is bringing to us.
And Adam did a good job explaining some of the things on social media that you don't have control over and that you do have control.
Well, one thing about a TID district is, I would say, I think I looked it up and it was like 90 or 90-some%, is used as a tool to attract developers in areas that otherwise wouldn't be built. And that is to say, hey, you come in, we'll set up this TID, you put in your infrastructure around it and whatever, we'll pay you back as a way to get you to build. I don't know if this is the way that's going. We didn't do that on our last one. They didn't ask for it. But I would say that any developer that comes in there really should be paying for their own infrastructure and the infrastructure around it that needs to feed into it. So I'm always concerned about, it's not the spirit of the state statutes we're using the TID districts. We're not, unless we are doing that, unless a developer's coming in and saying, hey, I'm not gonna develop here unless you set up a TID district and pay us back for what we're putting in for our infrastructure. But I don't know that. I hope that would be that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have 3 minutes left for this session. I did call on 2 other people to come up. You have 30 seconds to ask your question.
2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes divided
30
by.
seconds each.
Yeah.
Deal.
Gary Janda, 533 Free Church. What are your thoughts about the new Tourist Commission? And what do you think the makeup of that committee should be? Business owners, general public, and who should determine where the money should be spent?
I guess I'll go first. The one thing about a tourism commission is, it kind of makes sense if these monies in a few years do come in. The one thing our business association that does receive those root tax monies now, I don't think in the last couple of years when I heard that there was going to be all this money coming in, that we certainly were not able to handle that vast amount of money. But really the state statutes prescribe who goes on those tourist commissions. And so you need somebody that's from the hotel, motel industry, obviously. You would hope there's business owners in there. And our business association is all business owners. So I'll yield since go ahead.
All right, I am for the tourism commission. I believe it brings more transparency to the village, especially if we see a 10 to 12-fold increase in the room tax. So I see it moving forward. I see a role for, obviously, to statute, as Jim just mentioned, you have to have somebody from the hotel industry on it. You have to have business people on it. You have to have people from Williams Bay on it in order to make sure that wherever the money is being spent is done to the benefit of the residents of Williams Bay.
Thank you.
I will vote for a tourism commission. It needs proper oversight. It needs to work hand in hand with the village board. So their elected officials kind of keep an eye on things, on how things get spent. And this can work perfectly with the WBBA. I gave an example in the board meeting on the Eswater Park, for example. We want a bench out. The tourism commission can pay for it, but the WBBA can then put the entertainment in it, that kind of a thing. And so I would be all for it.
And I will just endorse the things that my fellow candidates have said. I think the tourism commission is a good idea, and it will be structured in a manner that provides both transparency as well as accountability in terms of and visibility in terms of how the money is spent.
called upon before, and this will be our last, yes.
Oh, it's you.
My name is Ryan, 418 Grandview Avenue. Fire EMS has come up a couple times tonight, but I didn't hear a lot of specifics about some of these areas, so I was curious if we could talk a little bit about staffing and response times, maybe a little bit about the current fire station, as well as just stopgap measures for supporting the volume of growth that we have in the village. So, those topics. Thank you.
Response times with respect to EMS are reported every month. We see a report from the Village of Fontana Fire Department or EMS staff, and the response times have been in the 6 to 8 minute range. Responses by a full paramedic team, so I think they've more than met our expectations with respect to EMS services. Fire protection, on the other hand, the volunteer fire department came to us a few weeks ago and said, we need help, and we're in the process of trying to figure out what that is. We, in the meantime, have a stopgap measure that says that first, when you dial 911 and say, I've got a fire, that call goes to Walworth County. Walworth County now notifies the Village of Fontana and the town of Delavan, and they decide who's going to respond. So we do have immediate response to that from a professional fire staff while we figure out what we're going to do long term.
On the EMS, we have a paramedic on each ambulance, which is very important for the EMTs because the paramedics makes all the calls. We are adding that little temporary building so we can have overnight staffing here at Fontana, and that is important because we have an aging population here. And I said this before, if you have a heart attack, every minute reduces your chance for survival by 10 seconds. So 8 minutes, you're down 80%. So we will have overnight staffing here. As far as the fire department is concerned, that we are just, the chair is sitting right there, and we are starting conversation. We're gonna have to fix that, and we will. So I'm pretty sure that's gonna come out just right.
I can reiterate what trustees Wright and Umans just said, but I won't because I agree with it. EMS works well. We currently have fire coverage, as they mentioned. The volunteer fire department came to us, to the board, saying they needed help. So we do have plans in place to deal with that right now. But we're really at an early stage on this. It seems like a lot of things have hit us with an early stage in the last month. But right now there are ongoing discussions between the village attorney and the attorney for the volunteer fire department. So I don't think we can really get into those conversations as to what's happening right now. I will only state that the volunteer fire department is extremely important to this village. It needs to be maintained, and we need to find a way to support them. And I think we will reach that decision fairly quickly.
I just want to say, I mean, this is an issue we've been talking about for like 20 years. I mean, we actually looked at fire departments 20 years ago where they can and can't go. You know, I think it works out really well. I mean, we talked to townships over the last 15, 20 years. We've had studies done where to put fire departments. So I mean, this has really been on our radar for quite a long time. And you know, fortunately, we do have a partnership with Montana. So, and I was all part of that agreement, and I was happy that that agreement went through. So, I mean, it's so complicated because nobody wants to give up their little fire department fiefdom, but eventually we're all being forced to work together. So I think it's gonna happen, yeah.
Thank you all for participating. Wish you all well.